And yes, it is a Thursday morning. And before we get to chat to Nico about retirement, we do want to just apologize for some of the technical difficulties that we had with last week's segment. But Rachel's been kind enough to pop it onto our Facebook page so you can go find it there. But this morning, we say good morning and thank you for your time, Nico.
Good morning to you and also to all the listeners. Retirement. So I imagine most of us now have a picture of somebody in their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're thinking of retirement and a 60-year-old, you're way, way too late for that. You need to be thinking about retirement in your 30s. Because the longer you wait to start your planning, the more likely it is that you're going to have too little money by the time you reach retirement. We forget what inflation has, the effect. I found a Bible yesterday, and it still had the price of the Bible in pencil on the front page. It was R2.45.
No
Get out of
way.
town.
So I thought, well, that's what I paid those days. And I'm quite sure that that was quite a hit on my pocket money when I bought it.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about keeping our lifestyle, we really need to have sufficient funds. Now, the problem that we have is as we get closer to retirement and we've realized we don't have enough money, we tend to take more risks with the way we put our retirement planning together. So typical some of the risks that are not a good idea and the questions that I've had recently. So to one young man who came to me, no, it was not a good idea for him to get rid of all his investments and buy into a brewery. No matter how niche market the brewery was, if that was going to be his sole retirement, it was just an unacceptable risk.
Exactly.
To the other one who had a great idea of selling all his secure investments and putting 25% of his investment into Bitcoin. No, that's really an unacceptable risk because Bitcoin can grow at phenomenal rates, but you can't predict what this is going to be like in 30 or 40 years' time. And you could find by then that there's a very different kind of atmosphere that you have to deal with. And gold, well, very few people today think they can put their entire pension in gold. There was a time when people bought some gold coins, buried it in the garden somewhere, so that if they were burgled, then the money would be safe. Those days are long gone.
Yeah.
And it's not a good idea. So then what is the secret between getting a good balanced portfolio? Firstly, you need to talk to a certified financial planner. There are 3,500 of us in South Africa, hundreds of thousands of around the world. So even if you're going to settle outside of South Africa, go and involve a certified financial planner. They've got far better training, and they're going to take that experience into account when they set up your portfolio. For those of you who are in Cape Town particularly, part of your portfolio should be the property where you're living right now. We've experienced phenomenal property growth in South Africa and particularly in Cape Town. And you certainly should be keeping your home well maintained. You should be, if there is a possibility of a granny flat, that kind of exercise is worth developing. In addition to that, watch some of the new trends. The yuppie market is growing by leaps and bounds, and they want a very different kind of accommodation. And if that, the advantage of that part of accommodation is that they have more money than most other segments, and they're therefore prepared to pay, but they're wanting a very different kind of accommodation. And there are thousands of new apartments going up around the city. And if you get into those segments right now, in 4 or 5 years' time, they're going to give you excellent returns. So certainly you should be having residential and rental property as part of your portfolio. Shares are always a good idea. And again, you not only have to look at JSE shares, which are basically listed shares. Be careful if you're buying unlisted shares. And certainly venture capital, which is what a lot of unlisted, is a very specialized field. Be careful if you're joining a venture capital company, watch what their fees are, because sometimes it's astronomical and you could then be losing 15-20% of your capital just managing the portfolio. If you're going to look at shares outside of South Africa, you need to look at the region. So, for instance, what's happening in the USA right now is profoundly affected by what the president said at his inauguration. And we know, because he's been president before, that he often makes sweeping statements, which he will then change his mind later. But the economy reacts immediately to what he says. And that can cause problems. So you can then, if you want to look offshore, you can look at the USA, you can look at Europe. Europe's in a very bad state right now, or you can look at Asia as well.
Would England possibly one of the places that we look at?
I think while the present government in the UK has a present leadership, I wouldn't be putting much money there right now.
Okay.
They are overwhelmed in debt. And they've made some really bad strategic problems, and they're trying to fix what the previous government did. And their health issues and their prison issues. I don't know where they're going to get all the money from that they do need to clean up the act, but they've got to get right. So if you're taking a long-term view, then certainly that would be fine. But if you're wanting to invest to get money out in the next 3 or 4 years, no, I wouldn't touch the UK right now. I wouldn't be doing that. Then Asia has real opportunities out there. Trump has obviously made all kinds of threats about penalties and tariffs, but he did that last time as well. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the crunch, some sensible people get alongside him and say, if you do that, they're going to retaliate. If they retaliate, this is going to be the effect. And then the negotiation starts. And so where he ends up is not where he started. So
true story.
we need to be aware of that. Then we've got bonds and then businesses. Now, I've had some really ridiculous business ideas that people throw at me. And often, just because you love a business idea doesn't mean that business idea will work. So if you're going to put all of your effort into a business idea, get help. Make sure that that model is going to be realistic. Don't end up running an idea simply because you're determined to stay with it when it's not viable. So there are a lot of challenges. The economic environment the country faces is important. We're obviously still going to have at least one more interest rate drop in the next coming week. We will have another interest rate drop in March. So that will be a good idea. That will help for those of us in debt. And there's a very strong chance that the government will manage to get our bond status out of junk in the next 2 years. And that will then make the government debt reduce substantially. And that'll give us all relief as taxpayers. So there are more positive things inside the country than there were in the last 2 or 3 years. But again, talk to your certified financial planner. They will have these figures. They will be able to get some kind of risk diversity. And what is your biggest mistake you can make? Take an insurance product as an investment and then don't look at what the return is.
Forget about it for 10, 20, 30 years.
And then you wake up and you find out the return was equal to the core inflation rate. Then you've really thrown away money.
True story.
So whatever investments you take, you have to evaluate at least on an annual basis and make sure that you didn't make a mistake.
Sure, that is powerful.
But we do need to. We're all going to get to retirement age at some point, and none of us want to struggle at that stage. We want the rewards of our work. Have a good day.
Thank you, Nico. Nico Kleynhans, a certified financial planner, and he is with Northwood. But please, as he said, you can speak to any financial planner, certified financial planner, get advice and start early. If you can start in your 20s, that's way better than starting in your 40s. Thanks a million.